Welcome to the Inclusion School podcast. I'm Simone Morris, joined by Julie Kratz. As parents to young children and as inclusion strategists, we have a shared passion for educating parents, caregivers, and educators about diversity and inclusion. If you're fearful about how to have conversations with children about diversity and inclusion, you are not alone. Inclusion School is the place with tools and resources to start this important dialogue. Our weekly show brings together inclusion experts, authors, and educators alike to share ideas and tools to help you have an impactful conversation with kids on diversity and inclusion. Let's get right into this week's topic. Welcome to this week's episode of the Inclusion School podcast. As always, Julie and I are delighted that you continue to return to the show and recommend the show to others. We have amazing guests for you this season, but first let me say hello to Julie. Julie, hi, how are you?
Hey, Simone. We have a new friend this week. Crystal Foote is with us, and we're going to have a conversation about inclusion in advertising, which is a new conversation for us. But Crystal is the founder of Digital Culture Group, which is a sole woman-owned and Black-owned advertising technology company in her field. Her dedication is to promoting diversity and fostering innovation at the core of her mission. She enables her clients to achieve their objectives while cultivating genuine relationships with consumers of all backgrounds. She's also involved in the National Association of National Advertisers and is really helping to be a driving force for positive change in the advertising world as well. So excited to have you on the show, Crystal.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us more. How did you decide to found this business, and what is the world like with inclusive advertising nowadays?
Well, I saw an opportunity when there was a gap in the advertising and marketing industry in reaching audiences based on authenticity. And so a lot of times what I saw was an advertiser or agency would say, okay, this is a specific audience we want to reach. And then based on that ethnicity or gender of that audience, we would just associate them with publications with that race, ethnicity, or gender in the title name. And I was like, that's really monolithic thinking of how to reach that audience, the stereotyping as well. Let's make sure we can reach this audience regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their gender, but based on other factors like psychographic information, purchase data information. So that way we can reach African Americans on Forbes, for example, or Wall Street Journal, right? Or reach Hispanic Latino audiences also on other types of networks, other types of publications that align specifically with, again, ethnicity, but also psychographic information, certain types of data points that we saw in our research too. And when I found out it wasn't really being utilized in our industry, that's why I created Digital Culture Group, to make sure that those audiences were authentically being reached, as well as in language, if necessary, to communicate with them about the brand or the product that the advertiser was trying to communicate.
Sounds very exciting. What are you seeing in the family space? This show, Inclusion School is to the parents, caregivers, and educators. When we talk about family and advertising, is there, I immediately think of Disney. I don't know why, or Pixar, probably because we see a lot of those movies. But from that standpoint, what companies or what are you seeing in the family space around advertising? Who's getting it right, and where's their additional opportunity?
Definitely Disney and Pixar. They do an incredible job at talking about different types of ethnicities and incorporating their culture in the movies. They do heavy research, they tap into consultants, and they make it right. And I'm really, really proud of the work that they're doing. Like, it's incredible, right? To have your child see a cartoon and animation with a different ethnicity and learn about their background, learn about their culture. That's fun. I love that. Or seeing an animation and your child can identify with that character as well is really important. I think that, so Disney, Pixar is definitely doing a great job. Also, I think that brands like McDonald's, they're doing a great job as well, because they're incorporating different types of cultural intelligence into their advertising so that every family is represented in a very unique and nuanced way. And you don't feel like, oh, should I be going to McDonald's because they're not advertising towards me or my family? They don't really understand, our makeup. They don't understand how to communicate to us, but they do. So I think those two brands are doing an incredible job.
That's awesome. Yeah, I when I'm watching TV, I kind of like quick scan, just to have that filter on to be like, who's centered, who's not, who's featured, who's not, like what the
Hey,
context is of when that culture is present in advertising. And I mean, I think things are, always could be better, right? Progress over perfection, though. I'm wondering too, and one that comes to my mind is Barbie has made a big pivot too in how they advertise and how they do representation. Again, not a perfect story, but never too right, never too late to get it right or try to get it right, I think.
I agree. I saw Black Barbie documentary on Friday evening, and they have come a long way.
Yeah.
But your point, Julie, a lot of work still has to be done. And there are a lot of things that they need to do to make sure there's more inclusivity. But what they've done over the years, recent years, and including more diverse backgrounds, even dolls with different types of abilities as well to their doll line has been incredible. And so, as a Barbie lover myself, I'm happy about that change. But there still needs to be more work, especially with the animation part. The different types of movies they're putting out, needs to be more representation on the screen.
Yeah, representation matters.
Yeah, it made me think about, I think Barbie had, or Mattel has I also saw the Black Barbie documentary. They have a blind Barbie and a Black Barbie with Down syndrome, which I thought was very interesting that they're going to that space and expanding representation to the point of the conversation. So what are your kids noticing about advertising, or what are you instilling in them to look for from an advertising standpoint out of curiosity?
Not just with advertising, but just in general, when they see even different types of clothing with different people on there or the same people, I tell them to look for people that look different with different backgrounds, making sure that what they're watching doesn't just include one type of person, because then you're not really showing a world of inclusivity, especially in the United States. We are a very diverse country, and that is the beauty of the United States, right? And so making sure they're aware of that do you see someone that looks like you? Do you see someone that looks like, your auntie Heidi, who is Filipina? Do you see someone that looks like your grandfather, who is a white man, right? Making sure that it includes everybody and it does not limit itself to just one type of person. And one day I was buying different outfits for vacation, and my daughter saw a dress that was super cute, but she looked at the different women that were represented on the dress. And she said, Mommy, that does not have inclusivity. I said, what do you mean? She said, the women are all the same skin color. And I said, you're right. And I said, we're not going to buy this dress because of that. We want to make sure that we're supporting brands that represent inclusivity.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. It's like where you put your money.
Exactly.
Which is like tempting. Sometimes like, well, it's not perfect, but I really want this. And you're like, oh shoot, this is like against my moral compass.
It is. It is. And I want to make sure that, especially today's consumer, they focus more on the societal good that brands are making in this world. Before it was like, oh, it's just a good product, I need it, whatever. But today you have to have a brand, a company that is making a difference, and you'll have more support. I believe it's like 80 support and loyalty of those consumers, of those customers for your brand if you have that type of involvement with social responsibility for certain causes.
Yeah, I noticed Gen Z, I mean, we have data on this, right? Is even higher how much they make their decisions based on the integrity and values and corporate social responsibility of the organization. And that's certainly with our kids, they're coming into that where that'll be even more of an expectation, which is interesting for young people. I mean, to Simone's point, like, how do you coach kiddos on that? Like, how do you teach them what to look for in a socially responsible brand?
Yes, so of course, diversity, number one. But then I start with the basics, something that's more age appropriate, and tell them if you are at a birthday party or if you're on the playground and someone did not play with you because of the color of your skin or because that you're a girl or a boy, how would you feel? And they say, oh, I wouldn't feel good. That's not right. That's mean. I say, exactly. So next time you're on the playground and you see someone who might be being teased or who's left out of the group because of their skin color, because of their gender, make sure that you're the one inviting them. And then you educate your friends around you about the importance of inclusivity. And so when you make it layman's terms for them to understand in their world why it matters, then they get it. And my daughter is 8 today. And I've been talking to her about this since she can speak, since she could communicate with me. So it's been working and I'm really proud of her and her, telling people about being inclusive on the playground or at parties or just in general. She's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I feel like the party space as a parent can challenge the most inclusive leader. I mean, you just want your kid to be happy. And then if there's children, frankly, we have experiences where there's not always niceness. And you struggle with, to Julie's point about, I'm the underlying theme or messaging I'm imparting to my child is about being inclusive, but then I don't want to teach my child to embrace meanness in service of inclusion. So it can be challenging. What are your thoughts on that? Have you experienced that? Because you mentioned the word party.
Right. We haven't experienced that, but it is interesting because if everyone else is saying no, thank you to this person because of whatever their background is different than theirs, it's hard for children sometimes not to go with a larger group, right? But at the end of the day, I tell my daughter, if that larger group is not doing something that's nice, do you really want to be a part of that? And imagine yourself in those shoes with that other kid. And so you all form a pack, you all have fun and do things that are right, because at the end of the day, everything comes back to you and you don't want to be mistreated. You don't want to be that person. And also tell an adult that's in the room what's happening, right? You're being supervised. So tell one of us what's going on and we can talk to the child or the children who are enforcing that type of alienation of that person, the other person.
Yeah, it's interesting, Simone. I've had that happen too. And even Jane, being somewhat similar physically looking to kids. And she's a 10-year-old. So there was a birthday party recently where there was an established friend group that was meeting, and she was kind of like by nature, like an outsider. Like I imagine a lot of kids of other cultures, other backgrounds, ethnicities, races might feel LGBTQ plus kids. And she instantly, because it's human, you just naturally notice that. You get the signals, should I be here? Who am I going to play with? No one's talking to me. And so it was only a couple hours. And when I picked her up, she's like, well, I found somebody that was nice to me. It's like, oh, I felt for her because she's like, but it just reminded me of the ally, finding an ally, finding somebody, like you said, an adult, somebody that can pay attention, somebody else that's on the same page as you. And she said, yeah, we just had a good time. We were being nice and the other girls were being mean. So I can relate to that. It's yeah, inclusion shouldn't mean exclusion or it's just, you can't go along with bad behavior, even if that is the majority of what she's seeing. So it's hard stuff. It's hard stuff to navigate all this.
It is. And for me, I love a party. So if I'm going to a kid's party and I see a kid that's kind of like the outsider, or Victoria, my daughter, is the new kid on the block for that social group, I'll say, hey, everyone, introducing so-and-so. And then I'll highlight some of, their strengths. Victoria likes to dance. She likes to sing. What do y'all like to do? So making it fun. And then, making sure that everyone talks about themselves as well, and then having a dance party. So I try to insert myself, and I know I can't always do that for my child, but I try to insert myself when I can, if I do see someone that is an outsider of a group.